Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is entitled Wish Me Luck as You Wave Me Goodbye. Episode 96, The Introduction. This podcast, and the SGUK Channel moving forward, relates to Harry and Meghan focusing on their life and foundation, as opposed to flying back and forth to the UK to be disrespected each time. Harry stated that they are moving forward, not looking back. I publicised a few weeks ago that this channel will be doing the same. I am not going to devote large-scale sections of my podcast making reference to the British royal family in articles or podcasts. That only serves to keep them relevant. I don't react to the regular nonsense publicised deliberately to get a reaction. They have followers to do that. I do not see our role to do the same. If their followers don't do that, then that is a British royal family problem, not ours. Harry and Meghan have no reason to play the game of invite but no invite, and then back to invite, etc. That is puerile behaviour, and Harry and Meghan don't have to beg people to notice that they exist. Sunday's podcast focuses on the goodbye aspects, which British royal family and media are pretending does not exist. Every function they have without Harry and Meghan diminishes the event. So be it. The UK had 7 years to make it right, so now it is the finding out stage of their actions. Meanwhile, all is great in Montecito. We love to see it. I consider the Sussex family as a unit moving away from an extremely toxic environment and a dysfunctional family. Family in this context relates to the UK monarchy, the government, and the UK tabloid media. I consider them to be all sleeping in the same bed, and the invisible contract is so visible now around the world. The clown show continues and is seen as such around the world. When a nation describes UK media as niche, dictionary definition also includes obscure. It confirms what most rational people outside of the UK, make-believe successful post-Brexit world, recognise that this group of people believe themselves to be special and who can force other nations to do their bidding. The same group of people believe that they have got away with abusing an American citizen on UK soil for 3 years and have continued abuse across borders with a belief of impunity. They have encouraged abuse of 2 children who have dual nationality and still regard them and treat them as less than. Once again, the sense of entitlement to be able to do what they wish with other people is considered admissible because monarchy and government in the UK work hand in hand. Revolving doors of staff ensure that the practice continues. UK media is there to act as a propaganda team to spread the required message, and the hate incitement is there to create an atmosphere of difficulty for the family, the nation instructed to leave every day for 3 years, and then express shock when they actually did just that. The last 3 years have been spent using taxpayer-funded resources to force them back out of enforced poverty and failure on the business front. Both lines of action orchestrated by the groups mentioned above, who I regard as the dysfunctional family in the UK, working hard to control a family who is no longer dependent upon UK monarchy to exist outside of the plantation behind gilded gates. Unfortunately for Bitter Island, otherwise known as the UK, Harry and Meghan and their philanthropic and foundation endeavours are doing very well. The family do not use UK taxpayer funds and pay taxes in the USA, where they own their own home, as opposed to homes owned by the Crown, i.e. UK taxpayers. In other words, the UK monarchy is clinging to the coattails of the Sussexes and not the other way around, as its propaganda team in the UK media write approximately nearly 100 articles a day. And the usual brainless drivel which passes as daytime TV in the UK, vacuous individuals only in a job because they are staying on the right side of the dysfunctional group I mentioned previously, and guests who are so far right-wing they meet themselves coming back, glad to be in front of a camera again, and can put butter on their dry bread now for meal times. It is like the equivalent of a bullfight in an arena, only it is the same bull they bring back from the death in their fake discussions to face another panel, grateful to be able to put food on their respective tables. The bitterness in every single person involved in these shows comes through loud and clear. The daily target practice that these daytime TV productions use is abusive to the Sussex family and is one of the main strands through the SGUK human rights campaign, ongoing in the background, and has been now for some months. One day, I would love to see everyone involved in this abusive activity across borders be held accountable for the rhetoric they use and the articles they write. It is time for that step to be taken on an international basis. Just because the UK withdrew itself from the European Union does not give it carte blanche to abuse people without challenge, and it 100% does not give it the right to abuse citizens from another country for 6 years and counting. There is no doubt in my mind on that one. Harry and Meghan are no doubt still recovering from one of many stunts, i.e. the New York City orchestrated incident. On one hand, it could have resulted in the death of 1, 2 or all 3 passengers in the vehicle, and the worst case scenario is that it was meant to be a warning shot across the bow for the couple to be quiet. This channel supports and applauds what Harry and Meghan are doing, and the extremely successful work that they are involved in, as well as future projects planned. The focus moving forward will be to focus on Harry and Meghan and their business partnerships. Reference will be made to when any of the UK dysfunctional family groups come out with another rattle that they want to throw out of their pram in front of a metaphorical camera, so that the world knows the UK is once again trying to stay relevant outside of its niche border nation. How to show the world that a nation has completely lost its marbles is to spend time and UK taxpayer resources to bully and abuse a couple for 6 years plus, and then now revert to try and destroy the... How to show the world that a nation has completely lost its marbles is to spend time and UK taxpayer resources to bully and abuse a couple for 6 years plus, and then now revert to try and destroy their brand in the belief that the monarchy can force them to return to the UK, only to be abused more than before. Only a confused narcissistic institution could ever think that would work. If the Sussexes never work again, they can afford to stay where they are for the rest of their lives, and their children have rock-solid futures and business entities to take over when they become adults if they wish to do so. There is no circumstance that would or could force the Sussexes to return to a place of abuse, and in Harry's case, continual abuse since childhood. The next section, the business framework and key performance indicators of this channel moving forward. At the heart of all podcasts and articles will still be the exploration of human costs as a direct consequence of events that have occurred or are ongoing. I will still be exploring human behaviour linked to personality traits as a consequence of an event or events that have implications of impact on business or emotions. We will highlight the work of partner agencies and give information on the latest projects that are being worked on around the world. The impact report on the Archewell Foundation website will feature throughout various podcasts and articles, which will reinforce the outcome-based approach to projects, all with measurable indicators as ingrained in the Archewell approach to things. Each charity and or organisations highlighted over the coming months will also ensure that the staff of those groups are highlighted and thanked for their contribution to helping others. They deserve the limelight, rather than people who were born under flashlights made of gold feel entitled to be loved and seen by everyone as fabulous people. Nothing could be further from the truth. Next heading, life under the multitude of spotlights, not working out as certain people thought it would. Actually, when it was deemed others were shining brighter than the special ones in that entitled bubble world, they moved heaven and earth to banish them from the shores of the UK. Now they have had all the spotlights, as well as their gold-tinted ones, that they had because they were special, all to themselves for the last 3 years. They are not so happy now. Quelle surprise. Now, all those bright lights shining on them every day has proved to be a little uncomfortable. Even more people now see how ineffective they all are, and their performative activities are loved by a dwindling audience. But no worries, because UK media is on hand to tell the world that things are just great. The real issues for them is that even with a multitude of spotlights shining on the golden crew of 7, the combination of these UK Avengers in fluffy crowns and Toy Town military medals and recycled curtains made into sashes and banners with stolen jewels from the crusades of the past still don't quite do it for anyone. 5 of them are 65 years of age and above, and most are over 70. The 2 under 65 have suddenly declared that after wanting the limelight for the past 6 years, they now want to step back. Where did I hear that phrase before? But in this case, these particular people, they want to step back and be out of the limelight now. The complete opposite to what they wanted, or what they said they wanted 3 years ago. And the excuse this time? Because they have young children. Initially, that excuse was used with each pregnancy. Then it was focusing on the under 5s. And now it appears school-age children need them around. Does that go up to the age 18 then? Let us not forget that these particular parents have a group of paid staff to look after their children. So apart from the school run, done in front of a camera when it suits, I very much doubt that they have ever been devoted in terms of their time to their children. Whatever the truth of the matter, they have found being under the spotlight, doing performative things that no longer hold the value it once did, leaves audiences wanting no more. Dragging the children out to face cameras has also lost its appeal. That approach can only be done so many times. Eventually, there comes a time when those photos do not provide enough income for UK media to earn enough to put enough food on their tables. They used to eat very well, previously, at least for the last 7 years, but now they've gone back to poverty. There is no hope on the horizon because no one, apart from those within that niche circle, believes that the Avengers ×7 is going to attract worldwide audiences or readership. The best they can do is keep mentioning the people they abused out of the UK in every other headline, just so that it appears like a flag being waved to the world that says the abusers are still alive and missing the global prominence without their targets being associated with any of their extravagant public displays requiring adoration from their poverty-stricken populace. Headlines without that successful couple's names in it somewhere means next to no engagement. Karma is just settling in. The next section looks at how to break free from the shackles of a dysfunctional family, and for these purposes I am referring to the British royal family, government and UK media. There are a number of reference sources, I think there are about 4 or 5, that relate to this particular section in the article, and I am merely just quoting some lines from the reference sources on this subject. First one, dysfunctional households are breeding grounds for psychological and emotional issues. Another, growing up in a dysfunctional environment forces children to mature sooner than they should. An unstable home lacks healthy communication and fails to provide for the child's emotional and psychological needs. Another, reinforcing to yourself that the past is in the past can help you take back your power. This will also keep you from making yourself and your current loved ones miserable for mistakes neither of you committed. It is hard to be optimistic about relationships when your own family has let you down your whole life. However, creating emotional and physical distance from your past and leaving the perfect family in inverted commas fantasy behind can help you look at yourself and your family in a new light. 5 coping strategies for dealing with dysfunctional groups. Harry and Meghan are well on the way in this list. Number 1, create boundaries. If you're experienced, it means you've already probably gone a few rounds with family members and are getting the hang of it. In reality, you never really get the hang of it or want to. The point is, toxic people don't want you to have boundaries because it's harder to control someone who is not easily accessible to them. A toxic person lives for invading other people's boundaries. That way, they can say and do anything they feel like, at any time they want to. creating boundaries limits a lot of their behaviour. And just a reminder, when I talk about dysfunctional families, I am referring to the three entities of evil, which is the British royal family, government, and UK media, in particular the tabloids. Number 2, limit your contact. Although you may not be able to totally avoid that contact, you can find ways to make sure you surround yourself with people you don't get along with as a way to insulate yourself from toxic family. Don't allow yourself to be cornered alone in a room. 3, don't engage. Anything you might say may be held against you, and nothing you say will change anyone's mind anyway. Remember, the goal of a toxic person is to control you and break you down so that you can be easily manipulated. 4, create a solid support system. These friends and supporters will act as a buffer between you and those that want to pull you in and control you. They will also function as a reasonable sounding board in case there is any doubt about what you are experiencing. 5, cut off all contact. When you've done everything you can and things stay the same, you'll know you tried whatever is possible. No guilt, no remorse, no shame. The final and only solution is to preserve your own integrity and health and let your relationship with your toxic family member go. I call it letting them play solitaire. The toxic game requires at least 2 to play, but when one person bows out, there's only one left to play the game, and that's no fun for them. And coming towards the end of this particular podcast, this section is headed up as closing remarks. Having set out the direction of travel for this channel in respect of the work and experiences of Harry and Meghan moving forward, I would like to add that the focus of SGUK will be to focus on all 3 divisions of Archewell. That is the foundation, production and audio. Next week's podcast will highlight the work of 2 organisations who have received support from Archewell, and to provide details of their progress and their hopes and aims for future objectives. Get to know key people within the organisation and look at the impact of the work to date in a number of fields. There are larger, well-known organisations working in partnership with Archewell, and my first instinct was to highlight at least one of those next week. But even though I will still feature them further down the line, I would like to give prominence to some of the others who have not been in the news so much, if at all, but who are doing wonderful things away from the limelight at the moment. Meghan and Harry and their team are truly making a difference out here in the wider world to so many people. SGUK will be giving those organisations a shout out over the coming weeks, along with Harry and Meghan. News that they announce along the way. Postscript. The title of this podcast caused some concerns when the flyer was published. The intent was to put a marker in the sand in terms of Harry and Meghan pandering to the whims of the British royal family in the organised invite refusal to whatever is the latest thing that institution and its government and its media would like to see in terms of international interest. It is patently obvious that such days of the British royal family being able to receive that attention without having to contrive such interest are long gone. And even when they had international interest, it was more curiosity than interest. It was never at the levels that the royal family have seen since 2016, when Meghan arrived on the scene. Couple that entry into British consciousness with the Brexit vote. Here landed someone who was not British, not white, and now linked to their favourite person in the royal family apart from the Queen herself. Initially, it was seen as an ideal target to point out yet another person coming over here, in inverted commas, etc. But within days, even though the USA link was always quoted as the main reason, but it was patently clear it was 99.9% to do with race. Against this backdrop of rhetoric and hate incitement, the UK still automatically expected to acquire trade deals with the USA with no struggle. The sense of entitlement resides on every level of activity that the monarchy glances at. Anyway, as we all know, Harry and Meghan are done with the UK in terms of attending events, not least because there are no important events such as weddings or funerals coming up that we know of, that they even need to consider. To date, when they have been invited to things, most of the occasions the Sussexes were told that they could not be with working royals, were out of view for most of the occasion. You would never guess that though royal reporters still wrote about their non-appearance, refusal to let them appear, etc., etc., and still took grainy photos from a distance through open windows, and they made the front pages of all the tabloids, and not the monarch and the working royals that were right at the front of everything. Not least because only the niche crowd wanted to see those, but everyone else, including media organisations, were willing to pay money to buy the grainy photos and circulate them within their media circles. Such is the power of Harry and Meghan. Now, all that has changed, and Meghan and Harry are not interested. The abuse of Meghan during the Queen's funeral and the days before and after will forever be etched in the global audience's memory, and not in a good way. It was painful to witness. The UK press and members of the family were downright rude and unprofessional in their behaviour. The disrespect was huge. Meghan felt no need to attend the coronation, only to be abused yet again. 7 years and counting is more than enough, and there is no need for her to have to put herself through any repeat of that behaviour. They told her she could not attend various things over the last couple of years, and now Meghan is done. She turned down the invitation to attend the coronation, not helped by the media writing articles for the previous 3 months stating she was not welcome to attend. And if she did, she and Harry would be put at the back of the church, etc. In the end, she decided to stay home, because another of the tricks played was that the coronation was arranged to take place on the same date as Archie's birthday, and the invite was only for Harry. Initially, it was Harry and Meghan, but then it very quickly became only Harry they wanted to see, because Meg, it would just cause an atmosphere and trouble and all kind of nonsense that they were coming out with. So ultimately, it was only Harry that had an invite. The children were never invited. So despite reports afterwards about this and that, just remember, Archie and Lilibet were never, ever invited. So ignore reports of how sorry the king was that he was not able to see his grandchildren. That was just utter and a 4-letter word that I'm not going to say, but I'm sure you all guess. When the family lived within a few minutes' walk away from the king, or Prince of Wales as he was then, he never visited anyway. He attended the christening, and looked at the baby in Harry's arms as if it was a baby from another planet, but surprisingly looked human. The expression on his face in one photo was something I commented on the same day. The so-called loving grandfather stood with a noticeable gap between himself and his younger son, and the expression on his face when he stared at Archie was one of amusement. He looked as if he was looking over a garden fence. I interpreted that he looked to see, and no doubt noticed, that it was deemed that Archie was an acceptable shade, and that maybe it might not be too bad on photos. He never made any attempt to see his grandson again, and he has never boarded a plane to see his granddaughter or his grandson again, so he can save his fake sorrow. Not a soul believes that for one moment. I consider the brief attendance at the coronation by Harry as a clear sign that he did his duty to his father, the King of England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, Northern Ireland. He attended the service and left the church at the end, still dressed in his suit, carrying the programme and a clothes hanger, and he was driven off to the airport. Harry spent less than 2 hours in the company of those who were invited to the ceremony, and he left for the airport so that he would land in LA in time for Archie's birthday party. After all the 3 months of vitriol in the UK tabloids, they still bleated on about how quickly Harry left, with no interaction with the senior royals, and he was smiling all the way through the service. If the royal reporters thought they were going to get a photo of him looking displeased for them to write reams of fiction for the following week or so, they were mistaken. But Harry is done. Meghan, we already know, is done. No doubt that shenanigans that occurred in New York with the car chase has had an impact on the mental health of all 3 occupants along with their security. No one in the UK establishment should be surprised that the Sussexes have 0 reason to attend these things just to be abused. I have put all that into the current SGUK campaign because I believe it plays a part. The title of the podcast is from a song that was sung in the First and Second World War, initially by Gracie Fields and then by Vera Lynn. It is about loved ones going off to war and reassuring their families that they would return one day, but did not know when that would be possible. In the article, I have put the lyrics to that song. I have also quoted 2 links at the end of the article, one for Gracie Fields and one for Vera Lynn performing that song, and then you'll understand the reasons why I put it for the heading of this podcast, because it's someone saying goodbye. In their case, they were doing their duty and going off to war. Harry did his duty by attending his father's coronation, but then he was leaving with no plans to attend anything in the near future in the UK, at least nothing to do with the royal family. The first few lines of this song, and it's repeated throughout as like a chorus, most of it. The first few lines of the song go like this. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go, on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Not a tear, but a cheer, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I, Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. That's it for this week. As I said, we'll be doing a nosedive into a few organisations over the coming weeks, alongside any Harry and Meghan news. So, look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments on Sunday onwards next week. Speak to you soon. It's bye from me. Bye from Ivy. Bye.